Baseball fans, we're back. I know we're transitioning a little bit today, but we're welcoming in one of our scouts, a guy who has a little bit of a background as we're going to get ready to talk about the North Carolina Procase. Here is Zach Borowski. Coach, how are we?
We're good. Finally done with the events. You know, it was kind of hectic couple days, 4 events in 3 days, a little bit of travel, a little bit of a toe issue on the last event, but we got through it.
We did it. I don't know that we'll ever do it like that again, but one of the highlights of the entire preseason package is, for this, I think it's the 7th year we've run our North Carolina Procase at Diamond Extreme in Kernersville, North Carolina. This one was a little different. We're putting it together. Typically we're setting some of these dates 9 months in advance, and I'm looking at high school schedules, but I didn't even think to look at Division I baseball schedules. And lo and behold, opening weekend happened to fall the same weekend right before the high school season starts, which very, very, very rarely happens. I can't remember it happening to us before. And so we didn't know if any pro guys were going to show up, even though the roster was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was kind of I'd called a couple buddies, and I knew a checker or two might be in town, but I didn't think many area guys were coming. And then the monsoon happened, and every team in the country decided to move the games up, and then you look like an absolute genius because I think every team might have been there.
We had over 30, and it was one of those deals, we wouldn't plan it that way, but it worked out really, really well. They needed somewhere to go. We had a lot of talent in one building, and, we get the day started, we roll right into the pitching, just like we typically do. We schedule this thing out because we know pro scouts have other places to go. They have a lot of things on their mind. It's like us as we're getting ready for the high school season. We want to see 30 teams on day one. It's just not physically possible to be everywhere, but we know they're trying to get out and be places. So bullpens, hitting, and then, the running and the defense and things of that sort. If they need to get out, they can get out and go somewhere. We try to have them out of the building no later than noon. We try to be done with most of the things that they really want to see by 11, and so they can get to a game. Our bullpens right out of the chute, we had some big arms throwing, and guys put up some really good numbers.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, you're never really sure where they are in their pitching routine, how many pitches they're supposed to throw, what intensity they're at. I mean, we've had some guys just come there and touch 85 and throw a touch and feel, and we're like, what are you doing? And then, a lot of these guys seem to kind of get a better feel for it now. I think they understand, especially when we start inviting the 27s and they kind of see and they're kind of coming back. They kind of know where they need to be for it. But, I think it was a very good overall event. It doesn't always have headliners, but somebody's always going to steal the show, and that happened really quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point with the 27s. We talk about, why are the 27s there? These guys are doing a lot of work on the 26s. And it's the fact that, they get a feel for what's really going to be happening to them, one. And then two, it starts the process for East Coast Pro, which, for us, we're watching these high school guys come through this system, from 8th grade on. We've got a pretty good idea of who they are. We have a pretty good idea of who we need to see and who we want at certain events and guys we need to see more of. For the pro guys, they hear names, but they're really so dialed in and so myopic on the one class they're getting ready to go through the draft with. That ability to kind of see some of these guys so that when they do run into them in the spring, they can start marketing them and getting them ready for that next summer, which is kind of their big jumping off point.
Yeah, we always want to try and get as many good players in at once. Sometimes you want to cross off people, and sometimes you got to cross on people. And, I mean, I know that'll make no sense, but to us it does. You got to put that guy on the list. I got to go see that guy now. Some names, one – I'll say Dylan Stacks, you got to go see him now.
Right.
Up to 93, the dude looks like an absolute bodybuilder. I think he would have won the bench press contest if we had a combine. Now you got to go. He put himself in a position where you're going to the coast to go watch him throw.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's start running through the roster a little bit. I'm going to present my screen here as I can kind of get it ready. And the first bullpen that we threw was kind of a guy that kind of jumped out at us and really, I thought elevated who he has a chance to be. Nick Rumbley. Nick's from Rockingham County High School, played for the Dirtbags, listed at 6'6", 246. And right out of the chute, we get a loud bullpen, kind of sets the day off, and we're off and running.
Yeah, I saw him earlier, and I didn't see the velo. I saw the pitchability. I saw the funk. I saw he's going to break a lot of wood bats guy. And then all of a sudden the 2 showed up and it stayed. And then as you and I were talking, it was this, controlled 5-pitch, 4.5 pitch mix. I don't really can't remember I think there was 5.
He threw a bunch. He threw a bunch
like
of pitches.
And then he threw, because he shaped in a curveball towards the end. It was just really good and controlled, and it's like he's been there for 10 years. Like, he was wise beyond his years on how he threw. He didn't stress. He didn't overthrow. His hat really kind of stayed on. You kind of look at a like this. My man's hat never moved. And, it was just fun to watch. I'm sure there's going to be a day where he's going to touch a 4 or 5 in front of somebody really important, and they're going to have to start making some decisions on a guy like that.
I'm trying to pull some video on him here real quick because I was a little bit shocked. Again, I had seen him. He's a strike thrower. He's got really good feel across the board. It's sink. Again, I hadn't seen the velocity somewhat like you, but it was his body control. And we can see it's really good lines. It's a lower slot. There's solid, at least average right to it. It's heavy sink. And then the slider's coming out of the same spot as that fastball. And then the ability to throw changeup in the zone, to throw curveball in the zone. I think he messed with, it may have been a kick or a split. He may have thrown a cutter. Everything he threw, the lines were good. The release was good. There was hand speed. I thought Nick did a good job and was kind of one of the big winners of the day in terms of the 26 class going, okay, here's something that's definitely, guys are going to have to go back in and see and kind of figure out where he's at because he looks the part. 6'6", 243, solid mover down the line. There's a lot to like with the package he put together.
Yeah, I mean, the frame is the key. You want starting pitchers to look like that. Like it is the prototype starter body. The next thing for a guy like Nick is going to be, does the 88-92 stay for 4 to 5 to 6 innings? Or do we start 90-92 and then settle 86-90? Then that kind of changes some things. But if he can hold with the pitchability he has, I mean, there's going to have to be a lot of people that just go in to see him because somebody's going to sync up on his metrics, whether it's somebody that loves extension, somebody, that wants the low release slot. There's going to be some team that really likes what he does. Yeah.
Up to 92. The breaking ball spinning close to 2,300, slider close to 2,300. There were different pitches. Obviously, you can see the velocity profiles, different pitches. It was a good day. Another arm for me, you talked a little bit about Dylan Stacks. Dylan was up to 92.4. And again, he looks the part. He's around the zone. He's a guy that's kind of developed, and we've been able to watch him progress. He was a guy that went with us to senior future games, was still uncommitted as August rolled around going into his senior year. Played really, really well at Lake Point. Got a chance with UNC Greensboro. Has got a chance to go on campus and do some things early there. The arm moves well. The body moves well. It's efficient. There's reasons to believe there's more jumps coming. Who else did you have that kind of separated themselves as you were watching the bullpens from behind on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I mean, obviously Quinn O'Rourke. I mean, we had seen him before, and it was kind of intriguing. And now it's really intriguing. It is every bit of a pro prospect. 90 touch, 94.8, multiple 3,000 spin rate breaking balls. I mean, it just jumps. I mean, there's some effort in it, which is fine. A
lot of effort in a lot of guys nowadays.
He's fine. My man is a chance. And, you look at all these things and you're just like, oh my. I do think the 3,000 spin rate fastball might have been a glitch. It might have been me on the track, man. My bad, bro. So, he's
going to get a chance. Guys are going to be in there to see him do it again,
yeah.
and trying to figure out kind of where he sits. I'm going to see if I can't switch the video here now that I've found, what's going on with him. We'll remove that one. And for me, the biggest part of where his prospect has gone was it's the ability now where he can throw the stuff in the zone. And he's got brothers that have been through the system, playing at high level places. So when he made this velocity jump last year, one of the things I think people get lost on is this idea that, hey, we're going to make the velocity jump and we're going to maintain all this feel and touch, and it just doesn't happen. So there was times last year where he was spraying the ball a little bit. but you can see this is a short clip, and yeah, we're cherry picking some pitches, but this personified what the bullpen was. He's not elite command, but he's around the zone. It's solid lines. He's in the zone with things. He's able to do some different things and manipulate how he's attacking with those pitches. The fastball and the breaking ball are coming from similar areas. I wouldn't say they tunnel, but they're similar areas. But the breaking ball has hard downer action. It's going to allow the fastball, if it wants to, and he can learn to ride it through the top of the zone. And anytime you've got a high school guy that's, was it 94.8? I mean, it's almost 90. Yeah, 94.8. Average spin 31.29. The ball, the movement on the ball didn't reflect the spin, so it's something. There's still stuff there that can be worked on. The breaking ball, again, 3,000 spin, and it was a good breaking ball. But I think with that type of spin and rotation, there's going to be an ability to kind of clean it, make it more efficient, make it a little bit later dive to it. So again, you're talking about a guy that was on the radar that comes out and has this type of performance, and he was a guy that came to the one last year and kind of got his feet wet with what this was. And now he was really relaxed, really comfortable. And you can see all the scouts in the background, and when he threw, it got really quiet in the building. We've talked about that in years past. There's just a natural noise in that building of people kind of sitting together and you're watching and things are going on. But when this guy gets on the bump, I mean, it was eerily quiet there for a couple pitches as guys were really trying to dial in on him.
Yeah, I think, for him, he actually has multiple profiles too. Like, we had a guy when I was at Fuquay named Daniel Egan, kind of a guy that late bloomed and absolutely took off. He might have a chance, to be a reliever, in high school, which, sounds crazy, but he might be able to be their backhand guy, get him 5 innings, win a lot of games, or he's going to be able to start for him. Like, he has the ability, because of this stuff, to have multiple roles. And when you have guys that can have multiple roles, like, it works out really well. I think overall, like, this pitching profile is a power profile. So it won't surprise me if you hear a 7 when it's warm outside. Like, it has a chance to really be an elite level fastball up in the zone.
Yeah, a couple other names just as we're rolling through. We're going to talk about John Hucko in a few minutes. The pitching part of what he does is really intriguing. At 27 now, he was up to 92.8. It's not a real polished. It's an athletic arm. It's an athletic delivery, but it's not extremely polished. But there's a reason, because I think this is kind of the side job. I don't know if he thinks of it that way, but for me it is, and it's still, if he shows up on campus at Auburn, I think he's going to be a dual. I think there's going to be pro teams that have to make a decision on how they're going to use him. Are they going to try to maintain possibly him being a dual, or is it going to be hit first, and if the hitting doesn't work out, then we can roll back to this? He's got a lot of upside, just because I think for what the profile is and what he has a chance to be, you can track both. And so, that risk of having a guy like this, whether it's on the roster at Auburn or, in a pro system, the risk is diminished because he's got upside in 2 different fields. What'd you see on John?
Yeah, John, you about killed me. Like, let's just go ahead and start off with this. I told B. Hall this was the first time I'd ever been worried throwing batting practice that somebody hit a ball and I didn't move in time. Like, the ball hit the screen and then I moved. So congrats, you're the first guy to ever do that to me. The barrel feel was unmatched, on the mound. It's so loose that, like, if you were to tell me he lets one loose and it's 95, I'd be like, okay. Like, I would just shake my head and agree with you right then and there. The arm is so loose that sometimes it drags, sometimes he gets behind, but it's that he don't work on it all the time, I'm assuming. Like, I think he likes to hit. I mean, if you look at those hitting metrics, like, thanks for playing, bro. Like, that's as impressive a hitting metrics as any 27 around. And, like, when you watch it, it's just such an effortless. It's no real there's no real uphill tilt. Like, it is just line drives. And, like, being a BP thrower, I do not want to throw to you. Like, it is. I hope we miss each other for the next 2 years, and I hope you have the most successful career. But that was a scary time for me throwing to you.
Yeah, he was good in a multitude of different ways. The other guy we can briefly touch on, Griffin McCain. This is 3 guys from Charlotte Catholic. At the Procase. When you look at the actual pure physical stats, 89, 85.9. 85-89, that's not a standout number at the Procase, but it's the build, it's the lean look, it's the efficiency of the arm path, it's the athleticism. and then plus, and I gotta scroll to it here. He's a 6'6" runner. This is one of those ones where you're looking at him now going, hey, in a year from now, 89 might be 94. And we can really do some projection on where he's got to be. And he doesn't have to be in a rush to get there because it's so efficient and so athletic now. Guys are going to take notice. He's not a hideout guy. These aren't numbers that we're seeing and nobody else is. It was a pretty loud bullpen, even though it didn't have the flashy ultra high velocity.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like in terms of control delivery, he might have like set the tone on that there. Like there's no effort. He knows he's got arm speed. He knows he has good lines. He knows how to pitch. You kind of have that, you crafty lefty, but he's not that. But like crafty lefties know how to pitch. Well, this guy knows how to pitch with stuff. Like that changes things dramatically and in a hurry. I think long-term wise, like you get these guys that run 6'6", 6'7", usually their fastball hits a 5 somewhere along the way, whether it's 2 weeks from now, 6 months from now. I've never met many guys that are that level of athletes with that arm speed that don't. So I expect them to continue the trend of that.
Well, as we talk about those two guys, obviously that Charlotte Catholic, those two. You've got Cooper Gornett at short. You got Brady Marconi. Let's lead back into that. So another Charlotte Catholic guy at the Procase, Brady Marconi. As a catcher that we had at the future games, kind of a catch and throw first guy. Athletic in the bat. It wasn't lagging. It just wasn't up to the par of where he was defensively. He's made some adjustments. He's put on muscle mass. He's gotten stronger. Your initial thoughts on seeing Brady and the newfound power, I guess. I mean, the ball was jumping off his bat.
Yeah, I'm going to not lie. I was on the Brady train last year. I've been on the Brady train a while. I've always thought he had power because I always thought he used his leverage well. Well, my man put on like 30 pounds of muscle and looks like a tight end. Like he is massive and he could still move. Like when you go look at his run time, like it was still a really good run time. In terms of the power, you and I kind of talked about it a little bit. He kind of had that, like he has that weird little hand load and it's on time. At some point in time, it might clean up a little bit. But when he times that thing up, I mean, you're looking 105 and 400 and he didn't break a sweat. And I'm not sure he even got all of a baseball yet. The BP guy might have been a little 50-50 sometimes. I ain't sure that like he was making me look better than maybe the pitches were.
I'm gonna show the video here and kind of let you see what you're talking about with that hand load. And it's one of those things I talked to a couple guys about afterwards. There is a way we would like guys to hit. There's a way we would like to see guys and everything that they're doing. And then sometimes there are just ways that work. And right now this is working for him. And if you go and really one of the things that you guys build history on and watching is how do swings develop? How do they, grow with the body? And we can see how he's made adjustments to his swing over the last 2 years with being at the Procase, being at the future games, being at some of these other places the pro guys have traveled and followed. And so, he's getting to a stable position. You called it kind of a cast load. He's got a hand action in there. He's got a trigger in there. The bat's fairly stable. He gets to the top. Watch his head and watch how direct he is. Even on a ball he's not perfectly on time for, he's still creating a lot of leverage through it. So it was one of those outings that was kind of eye-opening for me in terms of what we think had a chance to happen is starting to come, really quickly. Now, catching is a risky draft proposition. There are a ton of really good guys in college. I would think guys will be into seam, obviously. I would think that, unless he's just really, really has to sign, I would think he ends up in college just for a little bit more polish, a little bit more maturation. But there's a chance there now that he continues to get better and makes an impact at College Charleston very, very early on.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit he has, he's got pro arms. So people are always going to be there regardless. Like he's got a chance to, if he hits some balls, gets on some good arms early, he's going to have a chance he's got the best chance to hype himself up. And what I mean by that is get some helium because there's going to be guys that don't always know him. And so when you have guys that don't always know you, that whole track record where I've seen him swing for a couple years and this is a guy coming in with a brand new opinion. He might put 2 balls in the Narnia over the trees and like he's got that kind of power. that they're going to start asking different questions. And, as he receives well, I think this catch and throw, as he's gotten a little more physical, has kind of slowed down a little bit, but he still has plus arm.
Yep.
And, he still has absolute massive hands and crazy hand strength. He can catch any guy. So now it's going to be, high school catchers are hard. Like being a former pro scout, like high school catchers, like there's a risk to them, and there's a reason why. There's a lot in the first three, and then there's a big gap, and then there's some maybe a little bit later in the draft. Like there's certain numbers that they work for, and there's certain numbers that don't take them. And you never know. Like as I said, like he hits 5 to 10 homers early in the season when people come in to see those two arms. He's going to put himself in a position to have to make a decision.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things with you talked about the body, and it's not necessarily the quickness we saw maybe when he was a little bit earlier in the exchange and release. Some of that's the body just growing, and people see this and they go, oh man, they're saying he's not as quick. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is it's not what it was, but it can get there. He's 18 or whatever he is. They're not going to be a done project until they're 24, 25, 26 years old. So at 24, let's see where he's at. But he just put the weight on. He just put the strength on. The body is kind of learning to adapt to it. I think the quickness is going to come back, and then you're going to see that plus catch throw opportunity. It's just a matter of kind of, is it going to happen in the next 3 months or the next 9 months? So one more guy I wanted to go through, and it's a guy that, quite honestly, I've had a lot of discussion with about where his prospect is, because you look at him and it's the prototypical. He's long, he's lean, he moves with ease, there's fluidity. He's an elite defender for his age, and for me, I would say the bat's not there. The bat's not there. The bat's got to come. The bat speed's not there. His arms hang down to his legs or to his knees. And so, long arm guys take a little bit of time for that to develop. We thought this would come. But in terms of doing rankings and things like that, there's some risk when, there's some things you go, it's got to go though. We got to see it. And so now let's talk about, let's see if I got him up. Oh, we're going to stop sharing. We're going to start sharing now. So I'm going to pull up Reggie Marshall III. Your initial thoughts on Reggie's day?
Well, I've had the benefit, I'm usually the BP guy at a lot of events.
Reggie
I
Marshall.
threw to him at the border battle. And, it's kind of what we talked about, the long arms, kind of lacking some bat speed. But, he finds a lot of barrels. That changed. And I don't know when it changed. But I think he was the first person I mentioned to you. I said, this looks different than what it did 3 months ago. Yeah. Like, there were some balls he could just get to. He could whip. Balls were actually coming off the barrel with some pace. Like, it just was a different guy than what I've been used to. And, I'm happy for him. Like, I know he works so hard on these things, and I'm not going to lie, being a guy that's known as a defensive guy probably ain't the most fun thing. Like, I know he's got an absolute hand cannon, and he has strides that are unmatched. Like, them things are like 20 feet every time he runs. But, like, that day, it was fun to watch that man hit because it was clicking.
We know he's working. Obviously we have a relationship with his dad, and his dad's done some stuff with us, but we know he's working, and he's been like that since he was very young. I remember going and doing a scout day at Fayetteville Tech. He's running around there as like a 12 or 13-year-old, and it was pretty evident he was the best defender on the field when he was 12 or 13, and Fayetteville Tech was okay. They didn't continue to get better, but they were okay, and he was a better defender than what they had. And it's not a knock on their guys, and you're just trying to go, okay, I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come, but it's got to come. And to see the hard work starting to pay off. But you look at the build too, high-waisted, skinny. I don't know. He's not a prototypical guy. You go, hey, we're just going to add on pounds. He's going to handle it. There's going to be a point there where that body doesn't handle, 30, 40, 50 pounds or whatever it is. But he's still got room to add on weight right now. And with the swing and the way it's working, the weight's going to transfer pretty quickly to production. So I thought he was a big winner out of the day. Again, a ton of guys there that really did a good job. And the pro guys, we appreciate those guys being there. I'm not going to say we hope, we know that was a beneficial day for them. There were some guys, maybe they just marked them off, don't have to go see them, but that's part of the deal. And then there were some guys going, hey, I got to go in and really bear down on that guy. And then there's some guys, hey, I can just check back in. At some point, I'm going to pop in, just make sure it hadn't gone up to the next level. But a really, really good day. And, one of the events that you and I really look forward to. The information's up on the website. Zach and I are putting together, the quick hitters are out. The stat releases are going to be starting to roll out today, tonight, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday. That stuff's coming. We got more and more and more video coming from that. Zach, real quick, a piece of advice for anybody looking to get to the Procase next year. What is it we're looking for that gets guys to that level?
Here's the thing. Numbers will always turn heads, but the production really matters. And, there's going to be a time where you have to blend both, because there's going to be guys that will be like, hey, I hit 500 in high school. I was a conference player of the year. Why am I not that guy? And a lot of the reason is probably the same as if we're not getting recruited by a high-level school. You're a talented guy, but sometimes we just have to be able to take that next jump. So numbers and production have to match. If you're a guy that produces, you got to focus on some of your numbers. Listen, if you're a player of the year and you're 85, listen, great. That means you know how to pitch. Your money, you're probably not a Procase guy. If you're a guy that's 98 and walks everybody, you might get invited, but more than likely you're probably not making it because you don't produce. So it's that fine line of honing a craft that you're able to produce with.
Well said. Well said. Well, another great podcast. I appreciate you jumping on. I know we're scurrying about because we got 260 kids from this past weekend. We got more players to evaluate this weekend. We're trying to get rankings published. We're trying to get the Power 25s coming. I wonder who's going to be number one. And we may have talked about it a little bit today. I wonder. But that's going to come soon. High school previews are rolling out. Go to the website, www.prepbaseball.com. Go to North Carolina, hit the news tab, look and see everything we're doing. If you like what we're doing here, subscribe, like. I think I'm supposed to say that by law on YouTube. For Zach Borowski, Aaron Reimer, Kyle Cadlub, I'm Brandon Hall. We'll see you at the field.